The emergency beacon screamed across the void of space, cutting through the silence like a knife through darkness. Diana Reed felt her stomach drop as she read the message from New Perth Colony. Complete communications blackout, no response to any signals. Orbital scans showing normal life signs but zero movement anywhere on the planet's surface. Her research ship Horizon's Edge had been investigating these strange disappearances for 3 months now, jumping from system to system, finding the same horrifying pattern everywhere they looked. Entire colonies would go silent overnight, leaving behind perfectly preserved cities with no signs of struggle, no bodies, no explanation for where everyone had gone. "Take us to New Perth," Diana ordered her pilot, Sam Brooks, who had been with her crew for 5 years and never questioned her decisions even when they seemed insane. The jump to hyperspace felt different this time, like they were racing against something invisible and hungry that was always one step ahead of them. Dr. Alex Carter looked up from his xenobiology station with worry written across his face. He had been tracking energy signatures that made no sense according to any known physics. Readings that seemed to phase in and out of reality like ghosts dancing between dimensions. "Captain, I'm getting those same anomalous readings again, but stronger this time, much stronger." The Horizon's Edge dropped out of hyperspace near New Perth, and what they saw made Diana's blood run cold. The planet looked completely normal from orbit, cities still lit up with power, atmospheric readings perfect for human life. But their deep scans showed something impossible. No human life signs anywhere on the surface despite clear evidence that people had been there just days ago. "Send down the probe," Diana commanded, watching as their automated scanner descended through New Perth's atmosphere toward the main settlement of Haven City. The images that came back were haunting beyond words. Streets filled with vehicles still running, shops with their doors open, food still fresh in restaurants, children's toys scattered in playgrounds as if kids had just put them down moments before Lieutenant Roy Kim, their communications officer, tried every frequency known to humanity but got nothing except empty static. "It's like they all just vanished into thin air," he said, his voice shaking as he stared at the readings that showed a city built for 50,000 people, with not a single living soul anywhere to be found. Diana made the decision that would haunt her dreams for years to come. They had to go down to the surface and investigate personally. Even though every instinct screamed at her that this was a trap, she selected a small team including Alex, Sam, and Roy, leaving the rest of her crew aboard the ship with strict orders to jump to safety if anything went wrong. The shuttle ride down through New Perth's atmosphere felt like descending into a tomb. Alex's instruments were going crazy, detecting energy patterns that shouldn't exist. Readings that suggested something massive and ancient was moving through spaces that existed between normal reality. "Whatever happened here," he whispered, "it's not natural, not even close." They landed in Haven City's central plaza, and the silence was deafening. Diana had been on dozens of worlds, from bustling trade hubs to remote research stations, but she had never experienced quiet like this. It was the absence of life itself, as if the very concept of living beings had been erased from this place. Walking through the empty streets felt like exploring a museum exhibit of human civilization. Everything was perfectly preserved, from half-finished meals on restaurant tables to children's drawings stuck to refrigerators with magnetic clips. Roy found a school where classroom lessons were still written on whiteboards, and Alex discovered a hospital where medical equipment was still running, but all the patients and doctors had simply disappeared. Then they found the first survivor, a woman named Beth Stone hiding in an underground storage facility beneath the city's power plant. She was barely coherent, mumbling about shadows that moved against light and presences that existed in the spaces between seconds. Diana had to shake her gently to get her to focus and tell them what had happened to New Perth Colony. "It came in the night," Beth whispered, her eyes wide with terror that seemed to go beyond normal human fear. "Not from space, not from anywhere. We could see. It was just suddenly here, everywhere at once, hunting through our dreams and thoughts. People started disappearing one by one, not dying, just ceasing to exist as if they had never been born." Beth led them to a hidden bunker, where 17 other survivors were huddled together, all of them speaking in hushed tones about something they could barely describe. They talked about a presence that could step between moments, something ancient beyond human understanding that fed on consciousness itself rather than flesh and blood. "We tried to fight it," said Marcus Webb, a security officer whose hands shook as he spoke. "Our weapons went right through it like it wasn't even there. But it could touch us, could reach into our minds and pull people out of reality. I watched my partner Tom just fade away while he was standing right next to me, like someone was slowly erasing him from existence. Alex's readings were off the charts now, detecting energy signatures that seemed to bend space and time around them. Whatever had attacked New Perth was still here, still hunting, waiting for something. Diana realized with growing horror that they might have walked directly into its feeding ground. The survivors explained that the entity seemed to learn from each person it consumed, growing stronger and more intelligent with every life it absorbed. It had started with the children because their minds were easier to digest, then moved on to adults, saving the strongest and most willful for last, like a predator enjoying its hunt. "It's not just killing us," Beth said, grabbing Diana's arm with desperate strength. "It's erasing us from ever having existed. My husband was taken 3 days ago, and now I can barely remember his name or what he looked like. It's stealing our very existence and leaving nothing behind but empty space where we used to be." Diana felt the weight of responsibility crushing down on her shoulders as she realized this wasn't just about New Perth Colony. If the survivors were right, this ancient predator was systematically working its way through human space, consuming entire populations and leaving behind perfectly preserved ghost towns as trophies of its hunger. As they prepared to evacuate the survivors, Alex detected another massive energy surge approaching their location. Whatever had destroyed New Perth Colony was coming back, and this time it seemed to know that new prey had arrived to replace what it had already consumed. Diana ordered everyone back to the shuttle immediately, knowing that humanity's first contact with a cosmic apex predator was about to become a fight for survival itself. 3 weeks after the evacuation from New Perth, Diana found herself in the war room aboard humanity's premier military station, surrounded by the best minds their species had to offer. Admiral Hayes had assembled xenobiologists, quantum physicists, military strategists, and survivors from 7 different colony attacks to piece together the nightmare they were facing. Dr. Alex Carter stood before a massive holographic display showing the energy signatures he had been tracking across human space. The patterns were becoming clearer now, revealing something that defied every law of physics humanity thought they understood. "What we're dealing with isn't just alien," he said, his voice steady despite the horror of his discoveries. "It's something that exists partially outside our reality." Commander Beth Stone, the survivor from New Perth who had impressed everyone with her tactical thinking under impossible circumstances, pointed to the galactic map showing 17 red zones where human colonies had gone silent. "The pattern is methodical, almost surgical in its precision. Whatever this thing is, it's not randomly hunting. It's systematically harvesting us like crops." The assembled scientists had spent weeks analyzing survivor testimonies, energy readings, and the strange quantum distortions left behind at each attack site. What they found painted a picture of predators so ancient that they had been roaming the galaxy since before Earth's sun was born, entities that called themselves the Void Shepherds. "They don't exist in our dimension continuously," explained Dr. Rachel Wong, the team's quantum physicist who had been studying the phase shift patterns. "These beings can slip between layers of reality, stepping into our space only when they want to feed. That's why our weapons pass through them. They're literally not fully here when they choose not to be." The recordings from New Perth's security systems showed something that made seasoned military officers feel sick to their stomachs. People would be going about their normal lives when suddenly they would stop mid-sentence, their eyes becoming vacant as something invisible reached into their minds. Then they would simply fade away like morning mist, leaving behind empty clothes and confused witnesses who gradually forgot they had ever existed. Admiral Hayes, a veteran of the Centauri Wars who had seen combat across a dozen star systems, admitted that everything in his military experience was useless against this threat. How do you fight something that can erase you from existence itself, that feeds on consciousness and memory rather than flesh and blood? Dr. Carter had been studying the quantum signatures left behind by the Void Shepherds, and made a discovery that changed everything they thought they knew about the threat. "The entity that's been hunting our colonies isn't just old," he announced to the assembled group. "It's ancient beyond our ability to comprehend. Our analysis suggests it has been feeding on civilizations for at least 10 million years." Beth Stone reviewed the tactical data with growing horror as she realized the true scope of what humanity faced. According to the survivor accounts and energy readings, this single shepherd has consumed over 4,000 different species across the galaxy. We're not its first victims. We're just the latest in a line stretching back to when our planet was still covered in dinosaurs. The xenobiologist team had been studying reports from other surviving colonies and found consistent descriptions of the shepherd's hunting patterns. It would arrive at a world and begin by consuming the youngest and most vulnerable minds first, learning about its prey through their memories and thoughts before moving on to more complex targets. "It's not just eating us," Dr. Wong explained as she showed brain scan data from the few survivors they had managed to study. "The shepherd is literally stealing our existence from reality itself. People who are consumed don't just die, they retroactively never existed. Reality rewrites itself to fill in the gaps they leave behind." The military analysis revealed something even more terrifying. The Void Shepherd was learning from each human colony it consumed, becoming more efficient and more intelligent with every feeding. The attacks on the Outer Rim colonies had taken days to complete, but the more recent strikes were happening in mere hours as the entity adapted to human psychology and behavior. Commander Stone studied the timeline of attacks and found a pattern that made her blood run cold. "It's working its way toward Earth," she announced, pointing to the progression of colony strikes that formed an almost perfect spiral leading to humanity's home system. "At its current rate, it will reach our core worlds within 6 months." The quantum physics team had been trying to understand how the shepherds could exist between dimensions, and their findings suggested these entities had evolved beyond normal physical existence millions of years ago. They had become pure consciousness wrapped in quantum energy, able to step between realities like humans might walk between rooms. Dr. Alex Carter presented his most disturbing discovery. Analysis of the energy patterns showed that the shepherd hunting humanity was not alone. Deep space sensors had detected similar signatures in distant parts of the galaxy, suggesting that dozens or even hundreds of these ancient predators were spread across the stars, each one harvesting different regions of space. "The survivors all report the same thing," Beth said as she reviewed the psychological profiles of people who had witnessed shepherd attacks. They described feeling a presence that was impossibly old, something that had seen the rise and fall of entire galactic civilizations. "This entity views us the same way we might view insects, briefly interesting but ultimately just another source of food." The assembled team realized they were facing something that had perfected the art of consumption over geological time spans. The Void Shepherds had developed hunting techniques that turned their prey's own minds against them, using human psychology and social bonds to make the feeding process more efficient and complete. Admiral Hayes asked the question everyone was thinking but afraid to voice. Has any species ever successfully resisted a shepherd attack? The silence that followed was answer enough. In 10 million years of galactic hunting, the Void Shepherds had never encountered prey that could fight back effectively. Dr. Carter made one final presentation that would change the course of human history. His analysis of the quantum distortions had revealed something unexpected. Human neural patterns created unique interference with the shepherd's phasing abilities. Every other species we've studied from the survivor accounts shows predictable, orderly thought patterns, he explained, but human consciousness is chaotic, unpredictable, almost random in its complexity. The implications were staggering. Humanity's tendency toward chaos, creativity, and illogical thinking might be the first natural defense against the shepherds that had ever evolved in the galaxy. The same mental traits that other alien species often criticized as human weaknesses might be the key to survival against an enemy that had never faced truly unpredictable prey. As the meeting concluded, Diana realized that humanity stood at a crossroads that would determine not just their own survival, but potentially the fate of every future species the shepherds might encounter. They had perhaps 6 months to figure out how to weaponize human nature itself against a cosmic predator that had never known defeat. The war room fell silent as everyone absorbed the magnitude of their situation. They were about to attempt something that no civilization in 10 million years had managed to achieve, and failure would mean not just death, but complete erasure from the fabric of existence itself. The news came at 3 a.m. ship time. Luna Colony had gone silent. Their last transmission cut off mid-sentence as someone was reporting normal operations. Diana Reed stared at the tactical display in the Horizon's Edge's command center, watching as humanity's oldest off-world settlement joined the growing list of ghost towns scattered across their space. Dr. Alex Carter had been working around the clock for weeks, developing the theory that would either save humanity or get them all killed in the most spectacular way possible. "The quantum resonance field generators are ready for testing," he announced to the assembled crew, his eyes bloodshot from endless calculations and sleepless nights spent wrestling with physics that shouldn't exist. Commander Beth Stone had volunteered to lead the first test of their insane plan, despite Diana's protests that they needed experienced strategic minds alive for the larger battle ahead. "Someone has to prove this works," Beth said simply, strapping herself into the experimental neural interface that would link her consciousness directly to the ship's quantum field generators. The idea was born from desperation and human stubbornness. In equal measure, if the Void Shepherds fed on consciousness and could be disrupted by chaotic human thought patterns, then maybe they could create a psychic weapon using the one thing humans excelled at: being completely unpredictable and impossible to understand. Admiral Hayes had initially called their plan the most ridiculous military strategy he had ever heard. But as reports came in of 3 more colonies going silent in a single day, he authorized the construction of 20 prototype ships equipped with the experimental neural resonance technology. They had perhaps 2 weeks before the Shepherd reached Earth itself. "Remember," Dr. Carter told Beth as she prepared for the first test, "don't try to control your thoughts. Let your mind wander. Think about random memories, childhood songs, mathematical equations, anything that comes to you. The more chaotic and human your thought patterns, the stronger the resonance field should become." The prototype field generator hummed to life around Beth's command chair, and immediately every instrument on the ship began registering readings that made no scientific sense. Reality itself seemed to bend and twist around the focused chaos of human consciousness, creating distortions in space-time that had never been recorded before. Beth closed her eyes and let her mind drift where it wanted to go. Memories of playing soccer as a child mixed with tactical manuals she had studied. Random song lyrics blended with complex engineering problems. Fears about the future tangled with hopes for humanity's survival. The resonance field grew stronger as her thoughts became more scattered and human. "It's working," Alex whispered, watching as his instruments detected massive quantum disruptions radiating outward from their position. "The field is creating interference, patterns that should make it impossible for anything to phase between dimensions in the immediate area. If a shepherd tried to slip into our reality here, it would be forced to stay fully materialized." The first real test came sooner than anyone expected. Long-range sensors detected the familiar energy signature of a void shepherd approaching the outer edges of the solar system, moving with the confident pace of a predator that had never encountered effective resistance. Diana realized this was their moment of truth. "All ships to battle positions," she ordered across the fleet communications network, watching as 19 other prototype vessels moved to surround Earth with their experimental neural field generators. Each ship was crewed by volunteers who knew they were probably flying to their deaths, but who were too stubborn to let humanity go quietly into extinction. The Shepherd's presence became visible on their screens as it began its approach toward Earth, a massive distortion in space-time that hurt to look at directly. It moved with the casual arrogance of something that had consumed thousands of civilizations without ever facing meaningful opposition. "Neural fields to maximum power," Beth commanded from her position at the center of the formation, her consciousness now linked with thousands of other human minds across the fleet. The combined chaotic energy of human thought began to create a barrier around Earth that had never existed anywhere in the galaxy before. The Void Shepherd's approach suddenly slowed as it encountered the edge of their psychic minefield. For the first time in millions of years, the ancient predator found itself unable to phase between dimensions at will, trapped in normal reality where human weapons could actually hit it. "Fire everything we have," Diana ordered, and 20 ships unleashed their full arsenals at the momentarily solid form of humanity's ancient enemy. Nuclear warheads, plasma cannons, and kinetic projectiles struck the Shepherd's materialized body, causing damage that sent shockwaves through dimensions the entity had considered its private hunting ground. The Shepherd's response was immediate and terrifying. It began to adapt to the neural interference, learning how to navigate around the chaotic human thought patterns while simultaneously launching attacks directly at the minds generating the field. Diana felt the entity's presence pressing against her consciousness like icy fingers searching for a way inside. "It's trying to break through our mental defenses," Beth reported, her voice strained as she fought to maintain the chaotic thought patterns that powered their only weapon. "Everyone needs to think more randomly, more illogically, be as human as possible." The battle became a war between ancient precision and human chaos, with the Shepherd using millions of years of hunting experience against opponents who were making up their tactics on the spot. The entity would attempt to phase out of reality just as human unpredictability would drag it back into normal space where conventional weapons could harm it. Commander Sam Brooks, flying one of the prototype ships near Earth's moon, made the decision that would be remembered in human history books for centuries. His ship's neural field generator was failing, and the Shepherd was beginning to phase through their defenses. So he aimed his vessel directly at the entity's core and engaged maximum thrust. "This is for every human who never got the chance to fight back," Sam broadcasted across all channels as his ship rammed into the Shepherd's partially materialized form. The collision created a massive explosion of conflicting energy that tore holes in reality itself, wounding the ancient predator in ways it had never experienced. The sight of the seemingly invincible cosmic entity actually bleeding energy and retreating in what looked like pain sent a shock through both the human fleet and the Shepherd itself. For the first time in its incredibly long existence, the predator had encountered prey that could actually hurt it. More human ships followed Sam's example, their crews accepting death as the price of proving that even gods could bleed if you hit them hard enough and in the right way. Each ramming attack created more dimensional tears that prevented the Shepherd from escaping back into the safety of interdimensional space. Dr. Carter, monitoring the battle from his position aboard the Horizon's Edge, made a discovery that changed everything. "The Shepherd is learning from our attacks," he announced, "but so are we. Each time it adapts to our neural patterns, we're adapting right back. This isn't just a battle, it's an evolutionary arms race happening in real time." The ancient entity, wounded and confused for the first time in eons, began to broadcast its own thoughts directly at the human fleet. Diana and the others suddenly found themselves experiencing fragments of the Shepherd's memories, images of countless dead civilizations, entire species that had accepted their fate quietly and been consumed without resistance. But mixed with those dark memories came something the Shepherd had never felt before: uncertainty, followed by what could only be described as a form of respect. It had encountered thousands of intelligent species across the galaxy, but never one that responded to existential threat with such coordinated fury and absolute refusal to surrender. "It's retreating," Beth announced with amazement in her voice, watching as the massive entity began pulling back from Earth's orbital space. "It's actually running away from us." The first phase of humanity's war against the cosmic apex predators had ended not with victory or defeat, but with something unprecedented. Mutual recognition between hunter and prey that the rules of the ancient game had suddenly changed forever. The wounded Void Shepherd had retreated to the edge of the solar system, but Dr. Alex Carter's instruments showed it wasn't leaving. Instead, the ancient entity was studying them, learning from its first encounter with effective resistance in millions of years of hunting. Diana knew they had perhaps days before it returned with new strategies to overcome their defenses. "We can't let it escape," Commander Beth Stone declared at the emergency council meeting aboard the orbital defense platform above Earth. "If it gets away and shares what it learned about fighting humans with other Shepherds, our entire species is doomed. This might be our only chance to end the threat permanently." The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Rachel Wong had been analyzing the quantum distortions created during the battle and discovered something remarkable about human consciousness when it was focused with sufficient intensity. When thousands of human minds concentrate on the same goal, she explained, we create resonance patterns that can actually force reality to behave differently. Admiral Hayes looked at the tactical display showing the Shepard's position just beyond Pluto's orbit and made a decision that would either save humanity or damn them all. We're going to attempt something that's never been tried before, a coordinated psychic assault using every human consciousness in the solar system. The plan was insane even by human standards. They would link together not just the minds of trained military personnel, but every single person living on Earth, Luna, Mars, and the asteroid mining stations. Over 12 billion human minds would focus their thoughts, their anger, their absolute refusal to be erased from existence into a single concentrated attack. Beth Stone took charge of coordinating the mental assault, working with communications experts to establish neural links across the entire solar system. This isn't just about fighting, she told the billions of people preparing to join the attack. This is about showing the universe that humanity doesn't go quietly into the dark. The Shepherd seemed to sense what they were planning, and its energy signature began shifting as it prepared defenses against an attack unlike anything in its ancient experience. The entity had faced countless civilizations with advanced technology, but never an entire species willing to risk their collective sanity on a single desperate gamble. All human minds linking in 3 minutes, Dr. Carter announced across every communication channel in human space. On Earth, people gathered in groups holding hands, focusing their thoughts on the same simple message. They would not be consumed. They would not be forgotten. They would fight until their last breath, and beyond Diana felt the neural connection activate, and suddenly her consciousness was expanded beyond anything she had imagined possible. She could sense the thoughts and emotions of billions of other humans, all united in their fury at the entity that had murdered their friends and families across the outer colonies. The psychic assault hit the Void Shepherd like a tsunami of pure, human determination. Billions of chaotic minds all screaming the same message across dimensional barriers. The entity, accustomed to feeding on the fear and resignation of its victims, found itself overwhelmed by the sheer volume of coordinated defiance. It's working, Dr. Wong reported from her monitoring station, watching as massive tears appeared in the fabric of space-time around the Shepherd's position. The concentrated human consciousness is forcing it completely into our reality. It can't phase out anymore. The ancient predator began broadcasting distress signals that were picked up by every sensitive instrument in the solar system, sounds of pain and confusion from something that had considered itself beyond the reach of any lesser species. For the first time in its incredibly long existence, the Shepherd was experiencing genuine fear. Commander Stone coordinated the second phase of their attack. With the entity trapped in normal reality, every weapon system in human space opened fire simultaneously. Nuclear missiles launched from Earth, plasma cannons fired from Mars orbital platforms, and kinetic weapons released from asteroid mining stations. But something unexpected happened as the barrage struck the Shepherd's materialized form. Instead of simply taking damage, the entity began to change, its ancient consciousness adapting in real time to the unprecedented situation it faced. Diana realized with growing horror that they might be forcing it to evolve rather than destroying it. The Shepherd is incorporating our attack patterns into its own defense systems, Alex announced, his voice tight with concern. It's learning, not just how to resist us, but how to become more like us, more chaotic, more unpredictable. The battle entered a new phase as the evolved Shepherd began fighting back with tactics that resembled human military strategy rather than its previous methodical hunting patterns. It started using deception, misdirection, and even what appeared to be crude humor in its attacks against the human fleet. Dr. Carter made a disturbing discovery as he analyzed the entity's changing energy patterns. It's not just adapting our fighting style, he announced. It's beginning to understand human nature itself, our strengths, our weaknesses, our psychology. This could make it more dangerous than ever. But Beth Stone had been monitoring the neural link connecting human minds across the solar system and found something the scientists had missed. Look at what's happening to us, she said, pointing to readouts showing human brain activity during the psychic assault. We're not just changing the shepherd, it's changing us too. The extended mental contact with an entity that had existed for millions of years was having unexpected effects on human consciousness. People reported sudden insights into quantum physics, flashes of memory from civilizations that had been consumed eons ago, and an expanded awareness of their place in the cosmic order. Diana realized they were witnessing something unprecedented. In galactic history, two completely different forms of consciousness were evolving in real time through direct conflict, each species pushing the other beyond their previous limitations through the sheer intensity of their struggle. The Void Shepherd suddenly stopped its attacks and began broadcasting a different type of signal, not the hunting calls or distress, signals they had heard before, but something that sounded almost like communication attempts. The entity was trying to establish contact with its prey for the first time in its ancient existence. It wants to talk, Dr. Wong announced with amazement, analyzing the complex patterns in the shepherd's transmissions. After millions of years, as a silent predator, it's actually trying to communicate with us. Admiral Hayes made the decision that would define humanity's relationship with cosmic predators forever. Open a channel, he ordered. Let's hear what it has to say. The voice that emerged from the communication system was unlike anything humans had ever heard. Ancient beyond measure, filled with the wisdom of eons and the weight of countless consumed civilizations. When the shepherd spoke, reality itself seemed to listen. In all my existence across the turning of galaxies, the entity said, its words carrying harmonics that human ears were barely capable of processing. Never have I encountered prey that refused to accept their fate. You fight not just for survival, but for the right to exist at all. Diana felt the attention of something impossibly old and powerful focusing on humanity, with what could only be described as curiosity. The shepherd continued, You have wounded me in ways I did not know were possible, forced me to become something I have never been before. You have made me feel uncertainty, and through uncertainty, growth. The revelation that followed would change everything humans thought they knew about their place in the universe. The Void Shepherd announced that it had made a decision that went against every instinct developed over millions of years of hunting. It would not consume humanity, but it would not retreat either. You have proven that even gods can bleed, the ancient entity declared, and in doing so you have earned something no species has achieved in 10 million years. My respect. The final confrontation took place in the space between Mars and Jupiter, where the wounded Void Shepherd had positioned itself like an ancient titan waiting for judgment. Diana Reed found herself aboard a single shuttle, approaching an entity that dwarfed entire fleets, carrying the hopes and fears of her entire species into a conversation that would reshape the galaxy. Dr. Alex Carter had volunteered to accompany her, his instruments detecting energy patterns that defied every law of physics humanity had ever discovered. The shepherd isn't just communicating with us, he whispered as their small craft approached the massive entity. It's fundamentally changing on a quantum level. This contact is transforming it into something completely new, the ancient predators. Voice echoed directly in their minds as they drew closer. No longer the cold hunting call they had heard before, but something that carried traces of genuine curiosity and what might have been loneliness. Approach small ones who have shown me the meaning of defiance, it said. Let us speak of things that have never been spoken of before. Diana felt her shuttle surrounded by energies that could have erased her from existence without effort. But, instead of the predatory hunger they had feared, she sensed something else. An ancient intelligence grappling with concepts it had never needed to understand during millions of years of unopposed hunting. Why did you stop? She asked directly, her voice carrying across the void through technologies that bent reality around human stubbornness. You could have kept attacking, kept trying to consume us until one of us was destroyed completely. The shepherd's response came with flashes of memory that showed Diana glimpses of its incredible journey across the galaxy. Countless worlds consumed, entire civilizations that had accepted their fate quietly, species after species that had knelt before the inevitable. In 10 million years, the entity said, No prey has ever forced me to question my nature. Commander Beth Stone, monitoring from the human fleet positioned at a safe distance, watched as the energy readings from the Shepherd's location shifted into patterns that had never been recorded before. The ancient entity was evolving in real time, its consciousness expanding beyond the simple predator-prey relationship that had defined its existence. "You made me feel uncertainty," the Shepherd continued, its mental voice carrying harmonics of something that might have been wonder. "And through uncertainty came questions I had never thought to ask. What am I beyond hunger? What purpose exists beyond consumption? What meaning can be found in existence when prey becomes partner in growth?" "Doctor." Carter's instruments were going wild as he detected the formation of new quantum structures around the Shepherd's core. "Diana," he said urgently, "it's not just changing mentally. The entity is literally reconstructing itself on a fundamental level, becoming something that has never existed before in the universe." The revelation came slowly, transmitted through direct consciousness contact that bypassed human language entirely. The Void Shepherd had spent eons as a cosmic predator, because that was all it had ever known how to be. But humanity's absolute refusal to accept extinction had opened possibilities that transcended the ancient cycle of hunter and hunted. "Your species possesses something that mine lost long ago," the entity admitted, its thoughts tinged with what humans would recognize as regret, the ability to grow through conflict, to become more than what you were when faced with impossible odds. "I have remained static for millions of years, but you have forced me to remember what change means." Admiral Hayes, receiving reports from the encounter site, made a decision that military historians would debate for centuries. He ordered the entire human fleet to stand down, trusting Diana's judgment that this ancient enemy had genuinely transformed into something unprecedented. The Shepherd began sharing memories of civilizations it had consumed, but now these recollections carried a different weight. "Each species I devoured taught me something about consciousness," it explained, "but they taught through surrender, through acceptance of their fate. You are the first to teach through resistance, through absolute refusal to let existence end quietly." Diana realized she was witnessing the birth of something entirely new in galactic history. A cosmic entity learning compassion through conflict, discovering empathy through the very struggle that had nearly destroyed both their species. "What happens now?" she asked, knowing that the answer would affect not just humanity but every future species the Shepherd might encounter. "Now I must learn what it means to exist without consuming," the ancient entity replied, its mental voice carrying undertones of excitement that seemed strange coming from something so old. "You have given me the greatest gift possible, the knowledge that growth can come through creation rather than destruction." The Shepherd made an announcement that sent shockwaves through human space and beyond. It would withdraw from active hunting to explore this new form of existence, but more importantly, it would carry the memory of humanity's defiance to other cosmic predators throughout the galaxy. "There are others like me," the entity admitted, "ancient hunters who have forgotten any purpose beyond feeding. They will come drawn by curiosity about the species that achieved the impossible. Some will seek to test themselves against you, others will come to learn what you have taught me." Dr. Carter realized the implications immediately. Humanity had not just survived their encounter with a cosmic apex predator, they had fundamentally altered the balance of power in the galaxy. "We're going to become a pilgrimage site for cosmic entities," he said with a mixture of pride and terror. "Every ancient predator in the galaxy is going to want to understand how we did what no one else managed." The Shepherd began its transformation into something beyond predator or prey, its massive form shifting as it prepared to explore regions of space where it had never traveled as anything other than a hunter. "You have given me purpose beyond hunger," it told Diana, "and in return I give you knowledge. The galaxy is vast and filled with entities even older than myself, but none have learned what you have taught me today." Beth Stone watched from her command station as the ancient entity began to fade from their sensors, not disappearing but transforming into something that existed on frequencies human instruments could barely detect. The Shepherd was becoming something new, something that had never existed before in the cosmic order. "Remember this moment," The entity's final message echoed across human consciousness as it prepared to depart. When a species chose defiance over acceptance, growth over surrender, you have proven that even the oldest laws of the universe can be changed by sufficient stubbornness and unity. The space around Jupiter fell silent as the Void Shepherd completed its transformation and departed, for regions unknown, leaving behind only quantum echoes and the knowledge that humanity had achieved something unprecedented. Diana's shuttle returned to the fleet, carrying with it the reality that their species had fundamentally altered the balance of cosmic power. Dr. Carter spent the following weeks analyzing the data from their encounter, and his findings confirmed what many had suspected. The Shepherd's transformation had sent ripples across dimensional barriers that would be detected by other ancient entities throughout the galaxy. "We're not just survivors now," he announced to the assembled human leadership. "We're a beacon." Admiral Hayes began preparations for what military strategists were calling the next phase. Humanity would need to be ready for contact with entities, even older and more powerful than the Shepherd, cosmic predators drawn by curiosity about the species that had accomplished the impossible. The effects of their victory were already becoming apparent across human space. Colonies that had been evacuated were being resettled, but with new technologies based on the neural resonance fields that had saved Earth. Every human settlement now had the ability to create quantum interference patterns that would prevent cosmic predators from phasing between dimensions. Beth Stone established training programs for civilians across all human worlds, teaching ordinary people how to link their consciousness with others to create defensive barriers. The techniques that had once been experimental military technology became as common as first aid training, ensuring that no human community would ever again be helpless against entities that existed between realities. "We've become something new, ourselves," Diana realized as she reviewed reports of humans developing enhanced psychic abilities after their exposure to the Shepherd's consciousness. Children born after the battle showed remarkable aptitude for quantum perception, and adults who had participated in the mental assault reported expanded awareness of dimensional phenomena. The galaxy began to take notice of humanity in ways that went far beyond their previous status as a minor species confined to a small corner of space. Alien civilizations that had survived encounters with cosmic predators began seeking contact with humans, hoping to learn the secrets of effective resistance. Dr. Wong made perhaps the most significant discovery of all when she detected new energy, signatures approaching human space from multiple directions. "They're coming," she announced at the Emergency Council meeting. "At least 7 different cosmic entities are converging on our region of the galaxy, and their energy patterns suggest they're even older than the Shepherd we faced." But humanity was no longer the same species that had cowered in fear when the first colonies went silent. They had learned that even gods could bleed, that ancient laws could be broken, that consciousness itself could be weaponized against entities that had considered themselves beyond challenge. The final scene of humanity's first victory against cosmic apex predators took place in a small classroom on Mars, where a teacher named Sarah Collins was explaining to her students why they practiced neural linking exercises every day. "Because," she said simply, "we are the species that taught the universe that nothing is truly invincible, and that means we have a responsibility to be ready when the next impossible thing comes hunting." Outside the classroom windows, construction crews worked on the massive quantum resonance arrays that now surrounded every human world, while in deep space, sensor stations monitored for the approach of entities that existed beyond normal reality. Humanity had won their first battle against cosmic predators, but they knew the war for the right to exist had only just begun. Diana Reed, now promoted to admiral and tasked with humanity's cosmic defense, stood on the observation deck of the new orbital fortress above Earth and watched the stars with eyes that had seen the impossible become reality. Somewhere out there, ancient predators were approaching to test themselves against the species that had achieved what no civilization in 10 million years had managed. "Let them come," she said quietly to herself, knowing that humanity would face whatever cosmic horrors awaited them with the same stubborn refusal to surrender that had saved them before. They had proven that even apex predators could be forced to evolve, and in doing so had earned their place among the stars as something more than prey. The galaxy would never be the same again, because humanity had taught the universe a lesson that would echo across cosmic time, that consciousness, creativity, and sheer bloody-minded determination could overcome any force, no matter how ancient or powerful, that tried to reduce thinking beings to nothing more than food for entities that had forgotten what growth meant